Breaking Bad wasn't just a TV drama about a chemistry teacher becoming a drug lord, it was a resurrection wrapped in blue crystal, tragedy, and creative desperation. One writer's strike, it saved two main characters from death. One pizza throw, it landed perfectly in a single take and haunted a real family for years. And one casting decision, let's just say the executives weren't part of the plan. These are 20 weird facts about Breaking Bad. But wait until the end, because the bonus fact, it's about how a comedian's father became the show's most terrifying moment. Tread lightly. We're entering Heisenberg territory.
Number 1. Vince Gilligan created Breaking Bad by asking, what if you turned Mr. Chips into Scarface?
Some guy had put a meth lab in the back of an RV and was driving around cooking meth.
By the early 2000s, Vince Gilligan had already mastered science fiction storytelling on The X-Files, but he wanted to create something different, a story about a protagonist becoming an antagonist. The basic premise came from a simple question. What if you took the beloved schoolteacher from the 1934 novel Mr. Chips and transformed him into Tony Montana from Scarface, a mild-mannered educator becoming the most notorious crime lord of Albuquerque? Television was the perfect medium for this transformation, because you could take several years to show the character's eventual descent into villainy. What Gilligan created wasn't just a character study, it was an autopsy of the American dream, performed one episode at a time. Number 2. AMC executives thought Bryan Cranston was too funny to play a terrifying meth kingpin.
But you know the business. And I know the chemistry.
When Vince Gilligan pitched Bryan Cranston for Walter White, AMC executives were skeptical. We all still had the image of Bryan shaving his body and Malcolm in the Middle. We were like, really? Isn't there anybody else? Cranston was known as the goofy dad Hal, famous for scenes like roller skating in his underwear and getting covered in blue paint. The executives couldn't imagine this comedic actor becoming a ruthless drug lord, but Gilligan remembered working with Cranston on the X-Files episode Drive, where he played a bigot with a terminal illness, both absolutely terrible and sympathetic at the same time. It was that duality that made Cranston perfect for Walter White. The executives finally agreed after watching that X-Files episode, realizing he had range beyond comedy. Number 3. The 2007 writers' strike accidentally saved Jesse Pinkman and Hank Schrader from death.
The things that matter the most to writers, making sure that there's a writer's room, that they don't eliminate it.
Originally, Breaking Bad's first season was planned for 9 episodes. Vince Gilligan intended to kill off both Jesse Pinkman and Hank Schrader in the final episodes as a ballsy way to end the season. Jesse was supposed to die in a botched drug deal, leaving Walter racked with guilt. Hank was also marked for death in what Gilligan called a wake-up call for Walter's character development. But the Writers Guild of America strike reduced the season to 7 episodes. This forced delay gave Gilligan time to reconsider, and he realized that Aaron Paul and Dean Norris were too talented to waste. The writers' strike, in a sense, saved the show, Gilligan later admitted. Without that strike, Breaking Bad would have been completely different and much shorter. Number 4. Bryan Cranston nailed the pizza roof throw in a single take using physics. The famous scene where Walter White throws a pizza onto his roof in frustration became one of Breaking Bad's most iconic moments. The production crew had stacks of pizzas ready for multiple takes, expecting it would require several attempts. Bryan Cranston landed the throw perfectly on the first try. But the pizza's success wasn't just luck, it was science. The pizza was specifically unsliced because, as Vince Gilligan explained, a thrown, sliced pizza would come apart due to centrifugal force or angular momentum. The show even included a scene with Badger explaining that the pizza place doesn't cut the pizza, and they pass the savings on to you to justify why Walter's pizza stayed intact. Nothing in Breaking Bad was accidental, not even the physics of flying food. Number 5. Aaron Paul was terrified to film the scene where Jane dies because it felt too real.
I killed her.
What? During a recent appearance on Hot Ones, Aaron Paul revealed the Breaking Bad scene he dreaded most, finding Jane dead next to Jesse. There's a scene where Jesse wakes up and his girlfriend Jane is dead, Paul explained. I was terrified to film that. It was brutal. Paul described how the emotional weight of discovering his character's girlfriend had choked on her own vomit felt overwhelming to perform. This scene marked Jesse's first major loss and one of the darkest moments in the entire series. The intensity of that moment stayed with Paul throughout the show's run. Bryan Cranston would later torment him by joking that new scripts contained Jesse's death, keeping Paul anxious about his character's fate until the very end. Number 6. Showtime rejected Breaking Bad because it was too similar to their show Weeds.
Jesus, you got crystals in here 2 inches, 3 inches long. This is pure glass.
Before finding a home at AMC, Breaking Bad was offered to Showtime, which promptly rejected it. Their reasoning? They were already working on Weeds, another show about suburban drug dealing, and found Breaking Bad too similar. This rejection almost ended Breaking Bad before it began. When Vince Gilligan learned about Weeds, he hadn't even heard of the show. Upon discovering the similarities, he stated he wouldn't have made Breaking Bad if he'd known about Weeds earlier. TNT said no. HBO said no. FX showed interest but got cold feet and chose Dirt instead, which only lasted 2 seasons. Finally, AMC agreed to take the show, not because they loved it, but because they wanted something to pair with Mad Men. Sometimes the best art comes from desperate circumstances. Number 7. The show's location changed from California to New Mexico purely for tax saving.
Put the cigarette out.
Originally, Breaking Bad was set in Riverside, California. But Sony Pictures insisted that production move to New Mexico for taxation purposes, which could save significant money. This budget-driven decision accidentally transformed Breaking Bad into a modern western. The barren deserts and endless skies of New Mexico became as much a character as Walter White himself. The setting created a sense of isolation from civilization while adding a timeless quality impossible to achieve in bustling California. What started as a financial compromise became one of the show's greatest strengths. The remote desert setting allowed for the kind of moral lawlessness that made Walter's transformation believable, turning a cost-cutting measure into artistic gold. Number 8. A real chemistry professor helped write accurate drug-making scenes.
Let's say you bring me.
Professor Donna Nelson from the University of Oklahoma approached the Breaking Bad team after falling in love with the show. I really like this show, and if you ever need help with the chemistry, I'd love to lend a hand, she told Vince Gilligan. Nelson became the show's unofficial chemistry consultant, checking scripts and providing dialogue. She drew chemical structures and wrote chemical equations that were used as props throughout the series. We get help wherever we need it, whether it's chemistry, electrical engineering, or physics. We try to get everything correct, Gilligan explained. This attention to scientific accuracy helped make Walter White's meth-cooking expertise feel authentic, grounding the show's more outlandish moments in real science. Number 9. Bryan Cranston almost refused to film the pilot's underwear scene because of Malcolm in the Middle.
This is art, Mr. White.
Actually, it's just basic chemistry.
In Breaking Bad's pilot episode, Walter White appears in his underwear while frantically steering an RV through the desert. Bryan Cranston initially wanted to cut this scene because it reminded him too much of his comedic work on Malcolm in the Middle. Cranston feared audiences would see Walter White in underwear and immediately think of Hal Wilkerson's similar antics. The more I thought about it, the more I realized, this works in an oddly different way than it did on Malcolm, he said. The scene stayed, and it became one of Breaking Bad's most memorable opening moments. What could have been a comedic callback instead became a perfect symbol of Walter's desperation and loss of dignity, a man literally stripped down to his essentials. Number 10. The blue meth was actually made from rock candy that actors could safely handle.
My partner tells me that your crew switched to a P2P cook because of our success.
Throughout Breaking Bad's 5 seasons, massive amounts of blue meth appeared on screen. The prop department created this iconic blue crystal using rock candy, making it completely safe for actors to handle. Cast members could safely touch, move, and even accidentally ingest large quantities without any health risks. This allowed for visually striking scenes featuring piles of the product and close-up shots of cooking and packaging processes. The candy meth was so realistic that it became a sought-after souvenir. After the show ended, Bryan Cranston kept his Heisenberg pork pea hat, while Aaron Paul also received one as a memento, even though Jesse never wore the hat on screen. Number 11, Vince Gilligan named Walter White's high school after his own childhood school.
So you're not angry?
Walter White teaches at J.P. Wynne High School, which isn't a fictional creation. Vince Gilligan attended J.P. Wynne Campus School in Virginia, the laboratory school run by Longwood College, where his mother taught. Gilligan's childhood best friend was future film editor Angus Wall, whose mother Jackie also taught at J.P. Wynne alongside Gilligan's mother. Jackie would lend her Super 8 film cameras to young Vince, sparking his interest in filmmaking. By naming Walter's workplace after his own school, Gilligan embedded his personal history into Breaking Bad's DNA. The show became partially autobiographical, a story about a teacher whose life takes a dark turn, created by someone who grew up surrounded by teachers. Number 12. Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul got matching Breaking Bad tattoos on the final day of filming.
Man, I gotta try this. No, we only sell it.
To commemorate the end of their 5-year journey, Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul got Breaking Bad tattoos on the last day of filming the series finale. Cranston had the show's logo tattooed on his right ring finger, a subtle reminder he could hide when needed. Aaron Paul chose no half measures tattooed on his bicep, referencing Mike Ehrmantraut's philosophy about commitment. The tattoos represented more than just fond memories. They were permanent bonds between two actors whose on-screen chemistry had saved their characters from early deaths and transformed a small cable drama into television history. Bryan Cranston later became the godfather to Aaron Paul's son, Ryden. Number 13. The pizza scene created a real-life nightmare for the homeowners. After the pizza-throwing episode aired, fans began flocking to the Albuquerque house used as Walter White's home. Unfortunately, many brought pizzas to recreate the famous roof toss. Francis and Louis Padilla, the actual homeowners, started dealing with up to 200 visitors daily at the height of the show's popularity. "We've had pizzas on our roof. We've had pizzas on our driveway. Pizzas until we're sick of looking at pizzas," Francis told NPR. The situation became so problematic that Vince Gilligan publicly addressed it on a podcast. "There is nothing original or funny or cool about throwing a pizza on this lady's roof. The homeowners even threatened to sit outside with a shotgun to deter pizza throwing fans." Or number 14, AMC nearly canceled Breaking Bad after season 3 to save money. Despite critical acclaim, Breaking Bad struggled with ratings in its early season. After season 3, AMC began losing interest and proposed wrapping up the story to cut costs. The producers pitched Breaking Bad to FX again, hoping the network would take over production. When AMC learned about this potential defection, they suddenly changed their tune. No. We'll still broadcast the show. Stick with us. Don't go to FX. Season 4's viewership skyrocketed thanks to Netflix making previous seasons available on their streaming platform. This resurrection through streaming proved that Breaking Bad had found its audience. They just needed time to discover it. The near cancellation became a blessing in disguise. Number 15. Walter White was originally supposed to be killed by his own ricin in season 1.
Let him bleed.
In early Breaking Bad drafts, Walter White's story was much shorter. Vince Gilligan originally planned for Walter to accidentally poison himself with his own ricin creation during the first season. This would have made Breaking Bad a cautionary tale about a man destroyed by his own hubris within a single season. The ricin, meant to eliminate Walter's enemies, would have become his own doom through a deadly miscalculation. The extended episode order and positive response to Bryan Cranston's performance convinced Gilligan to expand Walter's journey. Instead of dying from his own poison, Walter lived long enough to become the poison himself, a much more complex and satisfying character arc. Number 16. The show's title comes from a Southern expression meaning to rebel and go wild.
So, what now? How do we proceed?
Breaking Bad is a Southern saying that means to break free from the chains of authority and go wild in rebellion. Vince Gilligan, who grew up in Virginia, was familiar with this regional expression. The title perfectly captured Walter White's transformation from rule-following teacher to rule-breaking kingpin. It wasn't just about making methamphetamine. It was about breaking every moral boundary that had previously defined his character. The phrase also described the show's approach to television storytelling. Breaking Bad itself was breaking bad from traditional television formulas, taking risks that other networks wouldn't dare attempt. The title worked on multiple levels, describing both character and creative philosophy. Number 17. Gus Fring's death scene used makeup artists from The Walking Dead.
Morning.
When Gus Fring meets his explosive end in the episode Face Off, his half-blown-off face became one of television's most shocking images. The makeup was so gruesome and detailed that it required special expertise. The makeup team behind The Walking Dead lent their skills to create Gus's blown-off face look. These artists, experienced in creating realistic zombie gore, brought their expertise to Breaking Bad's most visceral moment. The scene worked brilliantly because it combined Giancarlo Esposito's controlled performance with world-class prosthetic work. Gus straightens his tie and walks a few steps before collapsing, creating a moment that was both shocking and strangely dignified. The perfect end for television's most polite villain. Number 18. Aaron Paul performed his own stunts and continued doing them in movies.
You deserve to die.
Aaron Paul's dedication to authentic performance extended beyond acting into physical stunts. Throughout Breaking Bad, he performed many of his own dangerous sequences, adding realism to Jesse's increasingly chaotic situations. This commitment continued after Breaking Bad ended. When Paul starred in the movie Need for Speed, he underwent intensive training to perform his own stunt driving rather than using a double. Paul's hands-on approach allowed for more realistic action sequences and gave him a deeper understanding of his character's experiences. By physically engaging in the stunts, he could better portray the emotions and reactions of someone actually experiencing these dangerous situations. Number 19. Bryan Cranston directed 3 episodes while starring in the show.
Tell me what you want.
$50,000.
Beyond his Emmy-winning performance as Walter White, Bryan Cranston expanded his involvement by directing 3 Breaking Bad episodes. His directorial debut came in Season 2 with 737. Cranston's second directorial effort was No Maz, the Season 3 premiere that dealt with the aftermath of the dramatic plane crash. His final directing credit was Buyout in Season 5, the episode featuring the awkward dinner scene that became Aaron Paul's favorite moment. Directing while starring required Cranston to switch between creative roles rapidly. He had to embody Walter White's increasingly dangerous mindset while simultaneously managing the technical and artistic elements of filmmaking, a challenge that mirrored Walter's own double life. Number 20. The show helped discover that real meth production increased in areas where Breaking Bad was popular.
This is between him and me. No cavalry coming?
A disturbing real-world consequence emerged as Breaking Bad gained popularity. Law enforcement agencies reported increased methamphetamine production in areas where the show had strong viewership. While the show took great care to avoid providing actual meth-making instructions, its cultural impact apparently inspired some viewers to explore the criminal world it depicted. The fictional became frighteningly real in unexpected ways. This unintended influence highlighted the show's power and responsibility. Breaking Bad was so convincing in its portrayal of the drug trade that it accidentally became a cultural phenomenon that extended beyond entertainment into actual criminal activity, the ultimate testament to its authenticity. Bonus fact: the most terrifying bell ring in television history. Hector Salamanca's wheelchair bell became one of Breaking Bad's most chilling sounds, but the actor behind those rings wasn't originally supposed to be in the show at all. Mark Margolis, who played the stroke-ridden cartel member, was cast almost by accident. The role required an actor who could convey pure menace without speaking, communicating only through facial expressions and bell tap. The beautiful truth about Breaking Bad isn't that it survived network rejection, budget constraints, and near cancellation. It's that every accident became intentional. Every limitation became innovation. Every setback became setup for something greater. The writer's strike that saved Jesse Pinkman, the budget cuts that moved production to New Mexico, the pizza that landed perfectly in one take. These weren't just lucky breaks the best. They were proof that sometimes the best art emerges when creators are forced to break bad from their original plans. What started as a simple premise about Mr. Chips becoming Scarface became the greatest character study in television history. And like Walter White himself, Breaking Bad proved that transformation is always possible, even if you don't know where it's leading. What's your favorite Breaking Bad moment that still gives you chills? And have you ever had a pizza land exactly where you wanted it on the first try? Let me know in the comments below, and remember, sometimes the most beautiful art comes from breaking all the rules.